I have often heard people say, well, I have these two communities, and I will tell you that if you have two distinct communities, two totally different worlds that can use your product, that's fine. But each campaign needs to attract one.
Welcome to the Marketing Expedition Podcast, an auditory journey through the latest in marketing, branding, and advertising. Now, here's your Marketing Expedition guide, Ray Allen.
On today's episode of the Marketing Expedition Podcast, I get to speak with Lorraine Ball, and after spending too many years in corporate America, Lorraine said goodbye to the bureaucracy and glass ceilings and bad coffee to follow her passions to help small business owners succeed. Today, this successful entrepreneur, author, and professional speaker and podcaster enjoys sharing what she knows about marketing and presentations to groups around the country, in college classrooms, and of course, in her weekly podcast, More Than a Few Words. She brings creative ideas, practical tips, and decades of real-world experience to every conversation. And in her spare time, she loves to travel and take photos. And we're going to dig into the 3 things that you need when you start your marketing plan. Also, we're going to talk about user-generated content and zero-click. And of course, she's also a professor, a part-time adjunct professor at the university where she's at. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. Stay tuned for that. But first, it's time for your Marketing Essentials moment, the basics that you need to help you continue to build your brand and your bottom line in your marketing journey. In today's topic, I wanted to dig into how much the rise of video marketing is unlocking growth in big ways, and how you can incorporate video marketing into your strategy and plan if you don't already do so. And here's just maybe some other tips that if you already are incorporating video marketing into your plan, maybe there's some ideas here that can continuously help you gain even more growth with being able to think about how video is going to play such a huge impact in your plans. So it's ever evolving, of course, as to how exactly you can capitalize on being able to use video. But we know that the short clips, the reels that are happening on Instagram and TikTok and all the places that you can do video reels and keep people engaged and stop them from the scroll, right? But thinking about having a mobile first mantra, if you will, thinking about the fact that video is consumed on mobile devices so much more than it ever was before, and how you can navigate how people will consume your videos on the mobile devices, whether it's on social media or on YouTube or even on your website, or, sharing videos, Vimeo, all those different places that you can see and consume videos, right? And it's just becoming more and more increasingly evident that businesses really need to prioritize video ads. They have any hopes of continuing to grow their brand, right? And it's all, of course, a combination of things that you're doing, but continuously having that transformative power that video marketing can really bring you, and exploring how we can continuously use lots of different dynamic tools to make sure that we're defining and redefining the strategies for success. So again, mobile first mantra, and it depends on where you get your source or your information from. I mean, everything comes from different places, so a lot of different surveys have been done. But in Advertising Week, they had an article about the rise of video marketing and unlocking unprecedented growth. And in their article, they said a recent survey revealed that over 80% of consumers prefer watching videos on their mobile devices. So thinking about videos that are on your mobile device, making it clearly legible, especially if it's on a smaller device or a smaller screen, and making it responsive, of course, to whatever size of screen that they have. But really, this shift in understanding business videos are these short form contents, videos that are tailored for mobile viewing experiences. And so, having that mobile first mantra is going to be a big, and sometimes it's shifting, and people aren't necessarily realizing it. And when they're working on videos, they're looking at it on their desktops in their offices and on their computers, and they can see, a much larger screen. So continuously thinking about, oh, I need to look at this on my mobile device. What does it look like? How am I able to see what it is that is being shown? And am I getting the text correct on the size of screen that I might be seeing it on? And so thinking about ways that you can incorporate. And the other thing too is thinking about how you can make it audio agnostic, meaning maybe they aren't turning the audio up, but you are able to still tell the story through subtitles or graphics that you have on the screen, or animating those graphics and making sure that your message is still being received the way that you intend it, because of the fact that it's likely being shown on a mobile device, even more so than before. And then thinking about how you can drive purchases by utilizing those videos. There's lots of ways that we can use video advertising now, where people can click on things in the video, or they have a link that they're driven to, or a QR code that they can scan if they are watching it on a streaming TV. Then how can you use those QR codes to your advantage? Or even if they are looking at it on a desktop and they use their mobile device to use a QR code. That's happening a lot more, where that is continuously being the case. And we've even partnered with Lingo, service that will allow us to have QR codes, and then the person that scans it, it will come up in the native language that is already on their mobile device. And so being able to have it in the language that is native to them, in multiple different languages, that we can produce things and create things. And we had a campaign with one of our clients that we partnered with Lingo on, to be able to showcase, I think, 7 different languages. We have a lot of refugees coming into our area. There's some programs that they qualify for, but if they can't understand our language, then they're not going to be able to know about it. And so being able to partner with them and provide a website for women and infant and children, being able to get some resources, it's a phenomenal tool. And we've had great success in being able to have that website displayed in their native language. So just things to consider when you are creating your campaigns, if you're including, diversity and ways for us to communicate in other ways too. So yeah, how can you use videos to signify ways that people can spend money, ways they can interact, ways they can be educated, and just understanding how video is such a critical component in accelerating how users can use your brand, or your audience can use your brand, and understanding the way that you can connect with them in a lot of deeper, more meaningful connections because of those videos that you could use in your marketing. And also thinking about how people are purchasing online more and more, using mobile devices even more. So if you can showcase your product using the videos, showing other people lifestyle imagery of your product, or what's happening with the videos that you can use, super, super important to show that authenticity and being able to be transparent and showcasing what it is that you do and how you do it, why you do it, all of those things that you can include into a short clip in your video, or having a series of short clips that you can showcase. That's content that you can continuously generate on an ongoing basis. And then being able to showcase your brand's authenticity through those videos. People are more likely to watch a 30-second video than they are to read a whole, web page full of copy and context. Not to say that some people don't like to read, but it's just easier to consume and easier to see it. People will read along to subtitles on a video more than they'll read the whole blog post on your website. So those are some things to think about as you continue to build your brand, and things that you're going to continue to want to incorporate into your marketing strategy and plan, and being able to help catapult the growth that you're looking for in this digital era, right? People want easy, consumable information, and videos certainly can do that on an ongoing, regular basis. And by the way, if you consistently put new videos out, people then know and anticipate and watch for them. And so if you consistently create those messages, or use an agency like us or a creative production shop like us to be able to help you put those out on an ongoing basis, you are just doing yourself such a good favor to be able to make that happen and help continue to grow and scale your brand and your business. All right, with that said, let's get into the next interview. Welcome to the Marketing Expedition podcast. I'm your host, Ray Allen. I'm the president and CEO of Peppershock Media, also the founder of this Marketing Expedition community. And today's guest, we have Lorraine Ball. And Lorraine, tell me a little bit more about yourself and kind of what got you to where you are now in all of the wonderful things that you do. You also mentioned that you teach, so we're going to get into that a little bit too. But give me kind of an overview and what makes you the best at what you do.
So I wish that I could tell people that this was a straight line, that I knew exactly what I was going to do when all this started. But I think my life has been a series of happy accidents from the moment one of my professors told me I should not be an accountant, but that I should be a marketing student to,
Ah,
to, to today. I spent 20 years in corporate. I ran my own agency for 19 years, starting traditional marketing and then moving into digital marketing as that field emerged. And after selling that company, I went back to my roots. I am once again a consultant. I like working one on one with business owners to develop marketing strategies. I have a podcast that I've been recording since 2010,
nice.
and that's more than a few words. And as you said, I teach one course a semester at Butler University here in Indiana.
I love it. I love how you said that it's been happy little accidents, like a Bob Ross reference, right? The paint, it's just a happy little accident. It's funny to me how Bob Ross has been such an influential, even on the younger generation, right?
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, okay, let's dig in because I know you've got so many different topics that you could do, but let's start off with the three things that you need to start with and why when you're making a marketing plan. What are those three? You said simple but very, very, very important things. What are they?
So, the first question that you have to answer is, who is your customer? And that sounds like a very simple question. And it is one that almost every business owner I work with gets wrong because
Hmm.
they want to go too broad. They want to serve small and medium sized businesses.
Hmm.
And the truth is that those are two different customers. What a small business, what an emerging company needs is dramatically different than what an established business needs. What's important to the owners of those different businesses. Or they tell me they want to work with startups. Well, that's great, but what kind of startups? Are you talking tech companies? Are you talking
Hmm.
businesses that are in the home service industry? Are you talking about creative companies? Again, very,
I
very
always say I want to work with small businesses or startups that have money.
okay, money. Okay, the ability to pay is an important criteria, and you do have to include that in your description. And you would be amazed at how many people build marketing plans to go out after segments that cannot afford their services, and it
Yeah,
takes them a long time to figure that out. And
totally.
I don't even want to say that this is just on the B2B side. The same holds true for consumers.
Hmm.
Not all women are your customers.
Right.
Women ages 25 to 70 are not one community.
Right. It's such a broad range there, and you want to niche and focus, right? Niches make riches, they say, right?
Absolutely. And I have often heard people say, well, I have these two communities, and I will tell you that if you have two distinct communities, two totally different worlds that can use your product, that's fine. But each campaign needs to attract one. If you're building a website, you need to create environments and points of entry for each of those communities so they feel at home, and right away they're like, oh, I'm in the right place. So,
Yes.
number one, who is your customer? The second question is, who is your competitor? And again, business owners often focus on people that do exactly what they do. And I will hear, and particularly when I work with startups, oh, this is a brand new product. Nobody has done anything like this.
Hmm.
Okay, I get it. You are bleeding edge. No one has ever done what you're doing. But yesterday, before you launched your business, did your customer have the problem you solve? Yeah. Have they been sitting around waiting for you, or have they been using other solutions? Maybe not
Right.
as good as yours, but have they been using other solutions? Yeah. Well, then that's your competitor.
Right.
And you need to, first tier competitors are businesses that do exactly what you do. Second tier competitors solve the same problem, but they do it in different ways. For example, if I'm a business owner and I want to grow my business, I can go to a marketing consultant, I can go to a business coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
What those two people will do for me is totally different. But the
Right.
problem they solve is helping me grow. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you are looking at your competitive environment, you have to look out beyond just companies that do what you do and look at companies that solve the same problem you do in different ways. And in some industries, there's what I call a level three competitor, which is companies that don't solve the problem you solve at all. But
Mm-hmm.
you are fighting against them for disposable income.
Yeah, yeah. I think you've definitely uncovered a point that a lot of people don't even know what the problem is to solve to begin
Mhm.
with. They haven't done their market research. They haven't understood their customer yet or what their potential customer could be. And
Well,
diving into who they are is helpful.
absolutely. And the your point where you say they haven't even figured out what problem they solve, I'm going to go back and say, well, then how do you know there's anybody who even wants your product?
Right. Yeah.
But it's really cool and it's got cadmium plated screws and it's fabulous. Great. Is anybody laying awake at night saying, gee, I really want that? And if they are, it's really more about why. So those first two questions. The third question is, what do you want to accomplish with this marketing program, this marketing campaign? And, the short answer is I want to sell stuff. Great. That's a good objective. Do you want to sell more of a particular product? Do you want to sell more of everything in your product line? Do you want to sell more high priced products? Do you want to raise the amount of your average sale? Do you want to sell more to your existing customers, or are you looking to reach new customers?
Thinking with the end in mind, right? A Stephen Covey line, think with the end in mind. What do you want to get out of doing all of this? And how are your efforts going to go towards that? And
That,
creating that goals and those objectives for sure.
absolutely. And recognizing that different objectives will drive different behavior. If your goal is to get people into the habit of buying your product on a regular basis, then your marketing really needs to be focused on cultivating those relationships. If you're in an industry that is essentially one and done, and good examples, replacing the window of your car. Hopefully, you don't buy that over and over again. Or there are people that do these drop in showers that remodel bathrooms very quickly. Well, once you do that, you're not going to do that again, probably.
It's like a one and done. Mm-hmm.
So, if you have a one and done business, that's a very different kind of marketing. You have to be out there constantly reaching new people, reaching new people, reaching new people. Whereas if you have a product that people use over and over again, your marketing is less focused on reaching new people,
Mm-hmm.
and cultivating relationships. But if you don't define that objective, you can end up spending a lot of money on the
Hmm.
wrong type of marketing.
Absolutely. Do you have an example that you've worked with a client before that you could kind of share with us that's been a success story that you know, gave them this idea of, understanding who your customer is, your competitor, and what you want to accomplish?
Uh,
You want to share maybe a story with us?
so one of my favorite stories, absolute favorite, and this is a customer that I worked with for a long time, probably 10, 11 years, start to finish. So we had an opportunity to really get to know them well, was a company called Randall Beans. And they make beans that are packaged in glass jars. They are the only company that packages their beans in glass jars. Everybody else puts it in cans. And
Oh, like kidney beans, or like seed
mhm,
beans, or just beans that people can make chili out of, those types of
yes,
beans.
yes.
Okay.
So
Got
I think their first beans, they had um, Great Northern White. They had a mixed bean that was a staple here in the Midwest at a picnic. You open up the mixed bean, add a little bit of vegetable, and you have a mixed bean salad.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Oh,
so
so
the
they're
mix,
cooked
so
already.
so Great Northern mixed beans, and I think the red kidney bean was the other one. They had three types of beans.
So they're already cooked. They're ready to go. They're
They're
ready to eat.
absolutely, that's their thing.
Okay.
So their existing customer was an older consumer. Their
Mhm.
products were primarily available in lower end grocery stores, smaller grocery stores. Um, they eventually broke into Walmart. That's a different story, but it was kind of what I would call the Walmart customer. So not their ideal, but who was buying was 55, 60-year old and up.
Okay.
They came to us and they said, here's the challenge. Those people are dying off.
Mm-hmm.
The 60 plus, they're getting older, they're cooking less. This new generation doesn't use our product. So, the customer that we don't want to turn off our existing, but our target customer is the young cook, 25 to 40. That's who we want.
Mm-hmm.
Our competitors are other bean companies, and that's their first tier. And the other people that we are competing with are these Hello Fresh
Mm-hmm.
kind of prepared meals where all the ingredients come, and they don't need our beans because they're buying these complete kits.
Right.
Okay, so we knew the customer, we knew the competitor, and the objective was we wanted to grow market share specifically to younger customers. And so the approach that we took, and it really worked out well, was first off, we built out a Facebook page and we started to do a little bit of advertising. We updated their website. What we realized was these younger customers did not know how to prepare meals with the beans. So
Uh-huh.
we showed them. We
Nice.
started publishing recipes. Randall had a little cookbook, and we started with those 10 recipes. We ultimately hired recipe developers to create 2 original recipes for us every single month. We shared the recipes on social media, got a lot of engagement, and then we bundled eight or nine recipes into a digital cookbook that you could download if you gave us your email address.
Hmm.
We went from 250 email addresses to over 10,000.
Wow.
We, 8 and 9 years into the program, our email newsletter always featured like a new recipe, maybe something that was happening in the Randall company, maybe it was a launch of a new bean line, but it always had new recipes. The open rate on that email when we parted ways because I sold the company, so 10 years into this project, the open rate was still 40%. So
Wow.
here were people who had been on this mailing list 7, 8 years, who were getting an email every 2 weeks, and they were still 40% of the people getting it were still opening it. Facebook fan community grew. I think we also got that. It was up in the 10,000 range. And sales increased. This was not a product the online ordering was never a good thing because glass is very heavy and it's very expensive to ship because you can't just throw glass jars in a crate. They break. So we pushed people to the retailers. Randall got into. They're in Myers supermarkets. They are in Kroger supermarkets. They are in Walmart, and they added new products. They added 7 or 8 different varieties, including an organic line that has done really well for them. And to me, that's one of those. We took this sleepy little company that had great management that were willing to try different things, that saw that their existing target customer or their existing customer was going away and they needed to cultivate this new community. And that's what we did.
That sounds fantastic. That's huge growth in email alone. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
all of those people that could then get a coupon or get,
Mm-hmm.
more recipes, more ways to do things, and then user generated content of what they're doing and what they're cooking and they're tagging. I mean, that just explodes into so many things and so many opportunities. I think that's a wonderful story.
Yeah.
And they hit their goal, what they wanted to accomplish, right? They got the 25 to 40-year-old who, maybe will get hooked on beans.
Absolutely. And it's really fun because I almost always have a jar of their beans in my pantry now. And it certainly wasn't something that I would have thought of before I had met them, but it became something that I went, oh, this is really easy. And
I always like to put beans on my salad, like the 3 beans,
yes.
and it's good for you. I mean, it's healthy. It's the good kind of things that you're supposed to eat, like legumes and, all of those things. So even from a healthy perspective and selling it to those who are health conscious want, to better their intake of what they're eating.
Well, and
There's so many angles, huh?
absolutely. And again, in that 25 to 40, there is a growing health conscious. There's a growing community that's interested in organic. There's
Or
a growing
sustainable, yeah.
community that's interested in non-GMO, products. And Randall began to focus on that. Their core products are still made and grown traditionally, but they actually bought a farm where they were doing some experimental farming, and then taught some of these large commercial farms how to grow the beans organically so that they would meet federal government standards for organic. And they have a line of organic beans now.
That's a wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
I love that story. Hello, this is Ray Allen, President and CEO of Peppershock Media and your host of the Marketing Expedition podcast. And I'm here to invite you to one of my favorite events, New Marketing Trends for the New Year workshop. There will be an amazing lineup of speakers, and if you're interested in being recognized as one of our sponsors, email us at info@peppershock.com or give us a call at 208-461-5070. And I'll be there to share all the latest and greatest in marketing tips, tactics, tricks, and new technologies that you need to know about in the new year. We'll break it down, mix it up, and take you from I totally just can't even to yes, we can. We'll help you build your brand and your bottom line. Bring your team, bring your boss, bring a friend. Let's get ready to kickstart the new year by attending the New Marketing Trends for the New Year workshop. Get your tickets now. Go to marketingtrendsevent.com. Okay, let's shift gears because another area that we kind of alluded to it a little bit, but user-generated content, and that is just ever growing so much. And it's not, you don't even have to be famous to create content, but let's just talk about how companies and brands really need to kind of think about how they can incorporate user generated content into their strategy and their plan. Do you have some examples? I mean, the bean example is wonderful, but do you have some things that you work with your clients on in helping to generate the user generated content, and maybe kind of an example of what that would look like?
So there are lots of different categories of user generated content. The ones that we're the most familiar with are reviews and ratings.
Hmm.
And so this is something obviously every business should be doing, is cultivating reviews and encouraging people to comment on their experiences publicly. So that's an easy one. And talking about cultivating reviews, there are a million programs that do that. So I don't necessarily want to spend a lot of time there. What I do want to tell business owners is two things about that. Number one, don't wait till the project is over to get feedback on the experience. Because
Hmm.
if you wait until you finish the website to get feedback, the only thing you're going to get feedback on is that very last month or so of the project.
Hmm.
And the challenge is that customers, when they are coming into the market, they're not at that end result. They're really in the early stages. So throughout the process, collect comments on, okay, we just kicked off your new website. What was that experience like for you? Was it what you expected? What would you change or improve? Or can I share your thoughts on this? We just sent you a first draft. We just had our first meeting. I'm a physical therapist and we just mapped out your plan. What would you tell other people about the experience so far? And make that process part of everything you do. That way, take photographs all along the way. That way, when you're done, you have a series of testimonials that address every stage of your process.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
The, you know, the other thing is that really anytime you are doing something that is an experience, you're a restaurant, you're a hotel, you're a conference, you should have ways to encourage people to talk about you online. We are in an era where people love to take selfies.
Oh, yeah.
So if you have a pretty restaurant and there's one wall that is just beautiful, maybe you've got some flower decorations, invite people to take a picture. Are you celebrating a special event tonight? You are. Would you like to take an anniversary photo against our floral background? I'll take the picture with your camera.
Nice.
All I ask is when you share it, would you tag it? Either tag the restaurant or use our hashtag, and wherever they share it. So having backdrops and things. If you're at a concert or a convention, just have your hashtags everywhere. Remind people to take pictures. And if you want to up it a notch, run a contest. Take a photo, are you at the Indy 500 today? Take a photo and send it to this email or post it to Facebook and tag it this way or send it to us in an email. We're going to pick 10 photos that we're going to share on our page and the winner will get X. And the
Hmm.
amazing thing with contests, the prizes don't have to be huge. People will participate in social media for the fun of it, for the hope that they will be recognized. What you have to understand about social media is number one, it's social, but number two, it's all about ego. When I share something, I want somebody to notice. I want somebody to say, oh, that's cool, that's funny, that's amazing. Whatever it is, you and when people participate in your contest, even if there's only one winner, if you have 100 photos in your timeline that have been tagged, Build in the time to comment and reshare and interact with most of those people. You don't have to interact with all of them, but interact. Jimmy Fallon used to do this. I don't know if he still does, because Twitter is,
Well,
I'm
Twitter.
politely going to say Twitter is not what Twitter was. I have a
Right.
lot of other adjectives, but that's what I'm going to say. Okay.
Yeah. I'm with you. I understand.
But he used to do things where he would throw out a question. What was the worst birthday present you got? What was the most disastrous first day of school experience? What was the funniest place you've ever been on vacation? Whatever the question is. And he'd get all these answers. And then that night on the show, he would read some of the answers. He
Yeah.
might get 1,000 answers. He might read 10, but don't you know everybody who supplied an answer was watching that night to see if he mentioned them. There was no
Yeah.
prize involved, but he got great engagement and people tuned in for that. So the prize doesn't have to be amazing. One of the things with a contest, though, is making it viral. So if we've got time, I'll give you a quick story.
Sure. We got a little bit of time.
Optometrist was launching a pediatric optometry practice, and he wanted to make people aware of the fact that he was now taking care of children and eyeglasses for children. And so he ran a contest. You needed to share a photograph of your child wearing glasses. And he actually had a really cool prize. He was the optometrist for the local hockey team, so the winning kid got a ride on a Zamboni machine. I mean, it was really fun. Okay. Got 100, 150 people who shared their photograph. And so we had 150 great photos with releases to use these photos in our advertising, which is critical, particularly when you're trying to do anything with children, right? Okay. He's like, well, I got 150. That's nice. And I said, but we're not done. Because in order to win, you had to get votes. And the only way you could vote was you had to give us your email address and your zip code. We had now, my little Bobby looks adorable in these eyeglasses, right? And so I share the photo and the Revolutionize link to all my friends, all my family, everybody. And this generation is incredibly Facebook savvy. So they're sharing it and sharing it and sharing it. And the top photos are getting hundreds of votes. He generated probably 3,500 email addresses from that campaign.
Wow.
Now, I live in Indianapolis, but my grandmother and my mother and my aunt live in New York. They are never going to come in to Revolutionize either for their kids' eyeglasses or their own, right?
Right.
That's why we asked for the zip code. Anybody who put a zip code that was outside of what could reasonably be expected to participate or to come in and see him as a patient, we put them in a separate list. We thanked them for their vote, and then we never worried about him again. And he still had 2,000, 1,500, 2,000 viable email addresses.
That's great.
Yep.
And that's the key too, is viable.
Yeah.
Making sure that people want to opt into what you're going to give them and receive, or what they're receiving from you.
Absolutely. So, and you can, the trick with user generated content is you need to be very clear. You need to tell people what you want and what you're going to do with the content when they're done. And people are amazingly willing to share.
That's awesome. Okay, the last topic that we said we could talk about is zero click and what some strategies are for that now. And it seems like it's ever changing always. There's always something new to keep on track or up to date. And so why don't you, first of all, for those that don't know what zero click is, what it means, and then some of those strategies that you think people could maybe think about considering in what their efforts are for their marketing journey that they're going through.
Absolutely. So these days, every platform, all the social media platforms, and Google have one objective. They want you to stay in their self contained little bubble.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want you to leave. They don't want you to go to websites. They want you to stay. And so they make it harder for businesses to get people to click away. On LinkedIn, on Facebook, if you put a link in your post to your website, the algorithm will push that post to the bottom. It will
Mm-hmm.
actually derate or penalize. On Google right now, I saw some statistics, something like 40% of searches end without a click because people are getting enough information when they do the search from the AI generated search results, from the top 2 or 3 posts that they see, that they're not clicking through.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the world we're living in. And so you have to think about when you're creating content for this world, how do you create content that is relevant and impactful and lets people know what you need them to know? So the first thing you need, the first thing a lot of people think of is, okay, well, I'll do these long videos and I'll put them on Facebook and people will watch the video and they'll learn all about me. Yeah, no. Because in addition to a 0-click world, we know that people have the attention span of a flea.
Right.
And the algorithm favors videos that are 59 seconds or shorter.
Mm-hmm.
So, what you need to do as you're creating content, you create your long form content, you create that 1,000-word blog post, you create that 25-minute video, and then you slice it and dice it.
Right.
You post small snippets and
Then link to the longer form. Like if
well,
people
but see,
want
if you link
more.
to the longer form right away, the post gets
Mm.
derated. So the trick is you have to get conversation with your small snippets. If 2 or 3 people comment and engage, and now you put the link in the comments, you're not penalized. Now, if you
So wait,
post it and you
wait,
immediately put the link in the comments, the
that's
platforms are smart.
that's what I was just going to ask, because sometimes we'll say link in the comments to avoid that, but you're saying people need to engage first,
Mhm.
and then we post the link.
Yes. Now,
Aha.
is this more work? Absolutely, but the algorithm is smarter. You
Mm,
have to be smarter. The other thing is your web address should appear in your graphics. Whenever
right.
I do a video, I almost always close the video with www.morethanafewwords.com.
Mm.
So I don't
Well,
have I,
now that you to that point real quick though, I now see where people are saying DM me for the link, like send me a message and then I'll send you the link, and that's because they don't want to their feed to get diminished because they're putting links in their comments right away.
Absolutely. And there's
Ah.
real power in that DM strategy because
Mm.
now you're getting a smaller group of people who really want the information.
Aha. That's a really good strategy, because now then you've established communication on a personal level that you can then continue to communicate with
Mhm.
beyond what's going on in the feed. And
Yes.
that makes sense because I've seen a lot of people doing that now where it's like DM me for link, and I've done it. I've DM'd somebody because I wanted a link to more
Mhm.
information about whatever it was. I can't remember what it was, but that makes sense now because you're right. All of those platforms want to keep you inside their own platform, not linking out. and they just want to have you, kind of like when you post a video, if you post it to YouTube and then share that YouTube link on Facebook, you're not going to get as much traction or visibility as if you were to just post that video directly into the native Facebook platform.
Mhm.
That
Yep.
makes sense. That makes a
Yes.
lot of sense. Yeah, I'm seeing that happen a lot more.
Yes. And is it a pain? Is it a pain in the neck? Do you have to spend more time? Yes, you
Yes,
absolutely do. You absolutely do.
absolutely. Yep.
Number one, get over it. Number two, uh, stop thinking you have to be everywhere.
True. That
I,
is.
you know, I I use Publer and I auto post to everywhere, but I am on LinkedIn. And there's a
Mhm.
difference. I have content everywhere, but I am actively engaging on LinkedIn because that's where my community really is. And I'll
Yeah.
drop into the other platforms and interact and etc. But for me, qualified prospects
Yeah.
are on LinkedIn. That's where I'm going to spend my time.
That's good. And that's where people pay money for people to manage their social media just for that reason. So that you can spend the time on it and get engagement and reactions and shares and all those types of things. It's wonderful.
Absolutely.
So, Lorraine, the last thing I want to talk about is you said that you teach marketing at your university there. And first of all, how long have you been teaching?
So I have taught on and off for 25 years. I've taught
Your heart.
marketing, consumer behavior. I've always done it sort of as a sideline while I was doing other things, and I'm still doing it as a sideline.
Mhm, mhm.
I've been at Butler now. This will be my third semester.
We don't necessarily teach for the money. We all know that. But the intrinsic value of being able to share your knowledge with, these mostly young students who,
Mhm.
they're about to be released in the world and learn and do and grow and be a part of our society and being contributing members. I love the fact that you teach also, and there's something to be said about learning with them just as much as they get to learn from you, right? I mean, staying on top of the newest trends, and they've taught me so many, oh, here's a new platform, or here's something that we're doing now, and then I'm like investigating and understanding, and just I've been doing it now since 2020. Yes, I
Mhm.
signed up before I knew that COVID was going to, disrupt the world, but
Ugh.
um, I signed up like early. I said yes early March, and to teach starting in August of 2020.
Oh, oh.
But anyway, I do love being able to have just giving them the experiences that I've learned over the last 25 years, and then seeing them leverage what I know to then their own experiences and capabilities. And I think that's great that you've been doing this off and on for the last 20 years, because I think that it's a special kind of people who want to share their expertise with others and get out the information and all of the things that they need to learn before they actually do step into an agency setting or a company that they're working for, or starting their own agencies or
Mhm.
business or whatever. But I think that if you were to say something to the students that you've had over the years, let's do two parts here. The students that have taken classes from you 20 years ago and seeing them into their careers, what kind of feelings does that give you to see them succeed, to see that they've learned from you? And has anyone ever contacted you back later, after all these years, and kind of give you updates or anything like that?
So in addition to teaching at the college level, I've always had interns and
Yeah.
uh, I've hired a lot of kids fresh out of college. And I would say that the people that interned with me and were fresh out of college are the ones I stay in touch with more than
Hmm.
individual students. And I love seeing when they get promoted or
Hmm.
are just doing interesting work. And I'm like, yeah, that's possible because of what you learned. And a lot of them will still reach back and talk about when I was hired and it was my first management job, I had the, what would Lorraine do sort of on my bulletin board to remind me of how to approach some of those situations. So
Oh.
I think that's always been fun. And I yeah, I have a few students that came through when I started teaching specifically digital marketing about 8 or 9 years ago. Some of my students from that era, not necessarily from the early days, I
Mhm.
still stay in touch with, and we're connected on social media. And again, it's been fun to see them move into leadership roles and do
Mhm.
things on social media that we talked about in class.
I love that. It's awesome to come back and see, and same here. Like, I've had students reach out to me and said, "Hey, I got this job or whatever, in this, industry, and I changed trajectories of what I wanted to do because of the classes that I mean, I love hearing that from them. On the flip side, to new students who are about to approach the workplace, the workforce, and you're teaching, I think you said you're teaching intro
Mhm.
to marketing. Let's give some words of wisdom and advice to those who are about to maybe kind of bridge that gap between the college years and now the career, establishing their profession. What kind of things do you tell your students as they are kind of crossing that bridge?
So I will even step back a little bit and say the thing I will tell my sophomores and my juniors
Hmm.
is to do as many internships as they
Hmm.
possibly can, and to
Great
look for
advice.
opportunities in a range of industries, maybe even jobs that they think I would never want to do this when I graduate,
Mm,
because all of those experiences are going to prepare you in a way that the classroom won't.
exactly. No, that's great
Many professors, I mean, you're teaching, but you're a practitioner. I
advice.
don't get the sense that you are an academic. And
Mm-mm.
so you're sharing real world application of marketing with your students. That's very much the way I approach. But a lot of the other marketing classes are very academic. And when these students get out, if they have not had the internships, they're going to walk into their first job and be completely unprepared.
Unprepared, absolutely.
You know,
And that's what I try to do too, is prepare them for the real world scenarios. And we do tours of other agencies.
mhm,
We bring in speakers of other industry professionals. We have, I make them do journal entries that are, thoughts and opinions, not necessarily AI generated that they can just spit out, but I make them, I
mhm,
don't make them obviously, but they get to elaborate on the experiences that they're getting, just so we can prepare them for what's next for them
mhm,
and get them ready to, be in that setting, that environment where they may not have had that. Maybe, some of these students, the most that they've worked before is, retail or like flipping burgers or something. But
mhm.
then getting them into that professional space is part of what I love to do as well. And I think it's great to be able to do those internships. And we also have a lot of interns that have come through and here at Peppershock, and we do that just for two reasons. Why? One, it keeps us, knowledgeable of what's next and what they're learning, so we get to learn from them. But they also get real world experience, and
Oh, um,
awesome.
it's totally a two-way street. My podcast is a direct result of one of my interns walking into my office one day and saying, Lorraine, you like to talk. And I was like, yeah. And he says,
Yeah,
I think you should have a podcast. And I was like,
I
what the
love
heck is a podcast?
it. And you've been doing it for 10 years, so
No,
you
I've been doing it for 15.
15 years
Yeah.
before podcasts even became, I mean, I've been dabbling in podcast world for quite a while as well, but we became consistent, especially during pandemic when everybody was listening and consuming content. But yeah, I mean, I think having a podcast that people can go back and listen and learn is fabulous.
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
so okay, so More Than a Few Words is your podcast.
Yes.
And how can people reach you or work with you or learn more from you?
So I would always recommend two things. Number one, you want to look for more than a few words wherever you listen to podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
and connect with me on LinkedIn. That's where I hang out. That's where I have great conversations. And if you're at a point in your business where you've done some marketing, and early on I was talking about ideal clients. My
Mm-hmm.
ideal customers are companies that have been in business a few years, that have spent money on marketing, and they are not happy with the results. And what
Mm,
they're looking for is someone to come in and take a look at what everything that they're doing and help them develop a plan. And so you can book an office hour session with me at morethanafewwords.com.
I love it. Awesome. Well, Lorraine, thank you so much for sharing your stories and your nuggets of wisdom today.
My pleasure. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Excellent. And we'll make sure we can put links in the show notes and everything. But any last parting words, Lorraine?
I think that if you are going to be in marketing, you are going to have to commit to being a continuous learner.
Mm,
That this field, the basics stay the same, but the tools and the tricks on top of that are always changing.
I love it. Thank you so much, Lorraine. And have fun is Illinois, right? That's where you are? Or
Indiana,
Indiana?
Indiana.
Indiana, sorry. I knew something. It started with an I.
Yes, sir.
Idaho and Indiana.
Yeah, one
All
of those
right.
Midwest states. Thank you so much, Ray. This has been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And for those of you listening, the best thing that you can do for Lorraine and I is share this with others that you know that need to hear what Lorraine had to say today. And of course, those reviews are always wonderful. We appreciate that and always do monthly shout outs to those who do give us reviews. So I encourage you to go give us a review, screenshot it and send it to me. I'm on all the platforms as well. And we will do a shout out with your review. And until next time, everybody, enjoy your marketing journey.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Expedition podcast. Want to continue the journey? Don't miss out on new episodes. Subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. Wouldn't it be great if there was one place you can go to get all the latest information and tips about marketing and advertising? The Marketing Expedition community is that place. People like you gather in our online community to build relationships with others and find the latest marketing trends, tactics, tools, and technology. We help you build your brand and your bottom line. Start your adventure today. Visit themarketingexpedition.com to find out more.